Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. I know it was kind of a quick turnaround. It was kind of a fluid morning for us. And like Caitlin said, we are still investigating this. It is a fluid investigation. I'm going to do everything I do to give you the information about an arrest that we made around 7 o'clock this morning, and we will keep you informed of other developments that may come up as this investigation continues. At 7 a.m. this morning, deputies with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office arrested Frankie Eugene Bybee, an 18-year Sheriff's Office employee, after allegations of harassment by a 79-year-old Sarasota woman led to a criminal investigation and felony charges. Bybee's actions were first called into question on December the 20th, 2016, when the victim reported to us that Bybee was harassing her. An internal affairs investigation was launched and quickly revealed that Bybee had befriended the victim after responding to her home for a call for service on October the 21st, 2016. Bybee began making regular visits to the victim's home while on and off duty, and also introduced the victim to several members of his family. Detectives learned that Bybee took possession of the victim's dog while she was hospitalized and received a check for $1,000 in the event that the dog had any medical needs while the victim was away. Bybee deposited the money in his personal bank account and later told our detectives that he had rehomed the dog on Craigslist. The victim told us that Bybee only had permission to watch the dog while she was away and was not entitled to keep it or sell it. The photo to my left over here you can see is a text message from Bybee that he sent to the victim while she was hospitalized. It was at this time that we recognized Bybee initiated a relationship with the victim for both his personal and financial gain. On January 9th, 2017, an envelope addressed to Bybee was delivered to our main office here in Sarasota. Within the envelope were 4 checks belonging to the victim, made out to Bybee and his 3 children, totaling $65,000. When shown the check, the victim stated she didn't write or sign the checks. A forensic analysis found Bybee's fingerprint on one of the checks. He was immediately removed and placed on administrative leave. 3 days later, on January 12th, patrol deputies were called out to the victim's home. The victim reported that Bybee entered her unlocked home while wearing dark clothing and blue latex gloves. Bybee mounted the victim and, while holding her down, forced prescription medication into her mouth. The victim lost consciousness, and when she awoke, she summoned help. It was determined that her home was filled with carbon monoxide after the internal door to her garage was left open and her car was left running. Our investigation revealed that Bybee attempted to kill the victim and make it appear to be a suicide. Fortunately, she was unsuccessful and she survived the attack. With signed arrest warrants this morning, detectives today arrested Bybee and booked him into the Sarasota County Jail, where he faces the following charges: exploitation of the elderly by using his position as a law enforcement officer and person of trust to gain access to the victim's home, dog, assets, and potentially more. Bybee asked the victim for her financial account information, withheld her dog, visited her in the hospital in order to further establish and take advantage of their relationship. Petty theft for stealing the victim's checks and mailing them to the sheriff's office, where latent print examiners found Bybee's fingerprints. Forgery for unlawfully signing the victim's name on 4 checks made out to Bybee and his 3 children in a total of $65,000. Grand theft for Bybee's attempt to deprive the victim of $65,000. Grand theft for depriving the victim of her dog, which we learned would be estimated to be worth about $900. Burglary of an occupied dwelling for the offense on January the 12th, when Bybee unlawfully entered the victim's home with the intent to kill her. Battery on a victim of 65 years or older for the offenses of January 12th, when Bybee attempted to force the victim to take pills, knock her unconscious, causing lacerations, abrasions, and the bruising of her body. Attempted murder for the January 12th offenses in which Bybee burglarized the victim's home, attempted to force her to take prescription medication, and left her internal garage door open and the car running in order to fill her home with carbon monoxide, for the purposes of killing her and making the incident appear to be a suicide. I want to say, too, is that we have initiated, we wanted to make sure we handled Mr. Bybee with our criminal actions, and Florida statutes has certain career service rights of employees that are in public sector, and we have initiated the paperwork for his termination, which will be followed up, but we wanted to get him arrested so he couldn't victimize people anymore. I think it's important to relay to the public that Bybee's actions not only do not reflect the nearly 1,000 members of this agency who represent it every day, who are around kids, who are out there in the public, who this community has trust in. The integrity and the honor of this agency is not reflective of Frank Bybee's actions. It's beyond unacceptable an individual who works in a position of trust and guardianship to their community is capable of heinous crimes like Frankie Bybee committed. His actions are a disgrace not only to this agency, but to the law enforcement profession.
We have
As
another
the head of this
article
agency,
here.
I can tell you that his colleagues that he has worked with are extremely disappointed, as I'm sure the community is. Our team of detectives, since this came about, has worked tirelessly to pursue every lead and will continue to do so and continue to gather more information because this is still an open, fluid investigation. We have a lot more work to do on this. I think it's important that since he's worked here for 18 years, we would urge anybody in the public that has had contact with him, has maybe not contacted us, but something didn't seem right in his actions towards them, or maybe he has done something that they wish they would have reported and they would like to do so now, to contact our criminal investigation section at 941-861-4932. And like I said, we still have a lot more work to do with this. We have subpoenas out, and we'll provide that information when we can in the future. But right now, he is in the Sarasota County Jail, and we wanted to get him out of the public so he couldn't exploit anybody else. So with that, I'll do the best I can do to take a couple questions. I hope I've given you everything you need. Go ahead, John.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the relationship you had with this woman? Was it romantic in any nature?
That's still something that we're investigating. I can't say yes or no for certain, but at this point, nothing would put it past me with Frankie. But certainly, nothing at this point would lead us to believe that. It's certainly just the point that he was taking advantage of her because of her age and winning her confidence, so to exploit her for her money.
Could you talk to us a little bit more about his career? Quite a long one, almost 20 years.
Patrol deputy, detective for a certain amount of time. Nothing glamorous, I would say, about him. Very benign, but certainly 18 years a long time to wear a uniform and to have the opportunity to win public trust and to use that uniform to be sent to her home to provide her help and then exploit it is unacceptable.
Sheriff, you mentioned that his family is involved in this as well. Like, can you explain that at all?
I wouldn't say his family's involved in it. I can't go that far to say it. I would say that he used his children as an impetus to gain money and trust from her, so he introduced his children, his family to her. And again, that's the ongoing process of continuing winning her trust for the purpose of exploiting her. And so he did use it. And like you see here with the dog, you can see his text message to her while she's in the hospital, exploiting her dog to her to continue to win her public trust with, we believe, the purposes of accessing her financial accounts.
Sheriff, has he explained at all his actions as to why he did this? And your reaction to what he has allegedly done?
It would be nice to have somebody who wore this uniform for 18 years to be forthright and give us the truth. But he's a criminal, and he's acting like a criminal. And so thus he gets arrested and treated like a criminal, and he'll get prosecuted like a criminal. And I'm hoping he gets prosecuted a little bit more exceptionally than a normal criminal because he used the uniform for public trust. So it would be nice for him to tell the truth at some point in time, but at this point with the detectives, when we had him in here today at 7:30 in the morning, he didn't want to talk to him. So that itself, as a law enforcement officer, if you didn't do anything wrong, as a cop, and you have the reasons why you did anything wrong, having that opportunity to talk to people you've worked with, I would believe, is a huge story itself, that he didn't want to talk to him, invoked his rights. He's a criminal.
Can you give us any indication as to
Go ahead,
whether or not-
Kim.
Sorry.
Sheriff Knight, I know this does come as a surprise. Is there anything else in his background? Any more IA investigations that had ever been against him before?
Yes, he's been investigated 5 times. He was sustained investigations twice on him for violations of policies more than anything, which is what we hold accountability internally on our employees by disciplinary actions. I suspended him myself 2 years ago for being less than truthful with his supervisors, and I suspended him for 40 hours among some other disciplinary actions that were put on him. He was suspended in 2008 for 40 hours for not following the proper procedures and rules.
Had
And,
he received demotions?
had he received demotions? No, he's never promoted.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the timeline here and when police became involved with the investigation? I know there was obviously some theft prior to the attempted murder.
We started an inquiry in internal affairs on him when it came to our attention on December the 20th, was when everything was initiated.
So the attempted murder happened after the investigation had already
While we were investigating him, when he entered her home was on January 12th
of this year.
of this year, when he entered her home.
So the investigation had already started into
The internal affairs investigation had started, and we were mirroring that with a criminal investigation too, and he was removed from duty on January 9th. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Sheriff's Office employee arrested on felony charges. News release hashtag 17-017. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office arrested Frankie Eugene Bybee, Dobb October 13, 70, an 18-year Sheriff's Office employee, after allegations of harassment led to a criminal investigation and subsequent felony charges. Bybee's actions were first called into question on December 20, 2016, after the 79-year-old victim reported that Bybee was harassing her. An internal affairs, IA, investigation quickly revealed that Bybee befriended the victim after responding to her home for a call for service on October 21, 2016. Bybee began making regular visits to the victim's home while on and off duty, and also introduced the victim to several members of his family. As the investigation began, officials learned that Bybee took possession of the victim's dog while she was hospitalized and received a check for $1,000, in the event that the dog had any medical needs while the victim was away. Bybee deposited the money into his personal bank account and later told detectives that he rehomed the dog on Craigslist. The victim told detectives that Bybee only had permission to watch the dog while she was away and was not entitled to keep or sell it. Bybee initiated a relationship with the victim for both his personal and financial gain. On January 9, 2017, an envelope addressed to Bybee was delivered to the agency's main office, located at 2071 Ringling Boulevard, Sarasota. Within the envelope, detectives seized 4 checks belonging to the victim, made out to Bybee and his 3 children for a total of $65,000. When shown the checks, the victim stated she did not address or sign them. Bybee was immediately placed on administrative leave. A forensic analysis led latent print examiners to the discovery of Bybee's fingerprint on one of the checks. 3 days later, on January 12, patrol deputies were called to the victim's home where she reported Bybee entered her unlocked front door while wearing dark clothing and blue latex gloves. Bybee mounted the victim and while holding her down, forced prescription medication in her mouth, causing lacerations and abrasions to her face, and bruising to her body. The victim lost consciousness and when she awoke, summoned help. It was determined that her home filled with carbon monoxide after the internal door to her garage was left open and her car was left running. The investigation revealed that Bybee attempted to kill the victim and make it appear to be a suicide. With signed arrest warrants, detectives today arrested Bybee and booked him into the Sarasota County Jail, where he faces charges of attempted murder, battery on a victim 65 years or older, burglary of an occupied dwelling, exploitation of the elderly, 2 counts of grand theft, forgery, and petty theft. Pursuant to Florida statute and in line with the formal process that upholds the rights of sworn personnel facing disciplinary action, Bybee will also be presented with a proposed discipline of termination. Because Bybee has been employed at the Sheriff's Office for more than 18 years, we urge anyone who may have been victimized, to contact the Criminal Investigations Section at 941-861-4932 or 941-861-4935. Both the internal affairs and criminal investigations into Bybee's actions will remain open. The community should know that the actions of Mr. Bybee are in no way reflective of the nearly 1,000 other men and women who serve the public with honor and integrity, said Sheriff Tom Knight. It is beyond unacceptable that an individual who works in a position of trust and guardianship to their community, is capable of such heinous crimes. His actions are a disgrace not only to our agency but to law enforcement professionals everywhere. As soon as we learned of these allegations, we took quick action to begin an investigation, and in moving forward, we'll continue to look at the totality of this case. Now that he is off our streets and behind bars, we will let the criminal justice system will take its course. On Monday morning, Sheriff Knight held a news conference immediately following Bybee's arrest. A video of the conference can be viewed on the Sheriff's Office YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Sarasota Sheriff.